Hey, what's up guys, and welcome to 61 Sentinel. Sentinel is one of those souls that the Rift community loves to hate, especially in reference to PvE content, because there are better alternatives for the Cleric in dungeons and raids. But in my opinion, it still does really well in PvP, so in this guide I'll be showing you where to spend your points, what masteries to use, and how the spec plays, mostly focusing on a PvP type of environment. So let's go ahead and get started. Looking at the soul breakdown, we go 61 points into Sentinel. There's quite a few abilities at the bottom of the tree that are nice to have. You can pull points out of Sentinel and put it in other places, and it won't be build breaking. Moving over to the secondary soul, we put 11 in Purifier. That is to pick up Flashover for our 11-point ability there. We got 5 in Spirit Guidance for 10% Wisdom increase. We got 5 in Intensity for a Healing and Absorb increase of 5%. And then, of course, Flashover was that 11th point. As an alternative, if you don't want to go 11 in Purifier and you'd rather pick up a different skill, you can also go 12 in Inquisitor for a Purge. You can put points in Justicar for survivability. You can also go 11 Cabalist to pick up a 15-meter port. It's totally up to you and your playstyle. Moving over to the third soul, you got 4 in Oracle that picks up 8% spell power with Confidant. That's 4 points in. You also pick up a couple different support abilities down here, such as Inspirational Battle, which increases attack power, spell power by 275 every time you cast an Insignia, and that's where Insignia Blood comes in. You'll cast this to proc that. Moving over to the Masteries, level 61 Avenging Shield gives you the standard 3% max health shield every 6 seconds. You also, as an added bonus, your Echoes of Altruism will also affect all single target heals now instead of just invocations. What that does is anytime you cast an invocation, after 1 second it will heal for 12% of whatever value that invocation healed for. So if it healed for 10,000, after 1 second, Echoes of Altruism would heal that target again for 1,200 more. So that's what that does. Moving over to 62, we got Divine Inspiration. This increases your flat healing by 5%, healing and absorption rather. 63, we got Supplicants Haste. This one is going to increase the chance of Word of Life to proc, if known, by 5%. There's a default 10% chance for it to proc. What it does is reset the Healing Breath, your Healing Breath spell, and makes it off global cooldown. So this moves it from a 10% to 15% chance. Moving over to the 64 here, Face Reward. This instant and channel damaging and healing abilities apply a stacking buff to you, reducing the cast time of your next non-instant ability by 0.5 seconds per stack, max 5 stacks. This one's pretty good because you have a lot of different instant healing abilities that you cast while you're on the move, and you have the bulk of your healing coming from invocations that have large cast times. Very good stuff there. Moving up to 65, there's a couple different options you have. I typically will take Divine Favor, Divine Providence. However, if we have a lot of people out there purging in PvP, you don't have a team that's communicating well, sometimes I move it over to Soulstream so I have an extra healing cooldown for myself or somebody who's carrying an objective, depending what the situation is. Totally up to you, but I typically will pick Divine Favor just because it's such a giant healing output for you. So that's it for the Masteries, guys. Let's go ahead and jump into the macros real quick. There are quite a few. I'm going to go over them briefly. Moving up to the top left here, we have our Invocation macros. You'll notice that they have shift modifiers in them. What this does is if I hit my 1 key, which is where this macro is located, it will fire off starting here, cast Mouse over Healing Breath, and go down. If I hold the shift key and hit the 1 key, instead of starting here, it will start here and cast Touch the Light. And what Touch the Light will do is it will make your next non-instant spell instant. So that's what that does for you. Moving on down, we have the Healing Invocation and Crucial Invocation. With these two here, you'll notice that we have an additional shift modifier here for Flashover. Flashover forces your abilities to crit, so that's why it's in with Crucial Invocation, which is your hardest hitting single target heal. Moving on down, we have the Area of Effect Healing macro. This one just has a Divine Call and Healing Communion in it. It also has a shift modifier for Flashover. We'll talk more about these a little later. This one right here, number 5, is going to be your Fullness of Life. This is a 100% heal that you get. Of course, it is chopped down a little bit in PvP, but we'll discuss that more a little bit later. We have a shift modifier for Renewed Altruism, which is going to be the reset the cooldown on all Sentinel ability that you have. We also have, you'll notice that a lot of the macros also have cast at Mouse over Healing Breath and Healing Flare. These are kind of just backups in case you continue mashing that ability. You want to be able to still be able to cast something. So moving up to the top here, we got Healer's Covenant. This is a cooldown you get that reduces damage incoming by 40% for 10 seconds, and it's targetable, so you can put it on the objective holder or whoever you want in PvP. Moving down, we got the Niall's Hope Healer's Haste macro. This guy is going to contain this guy and this guy. So Niall's Hope is going to increase healing done by 50% on the next 5 single target heals. Healer's Haste reduces the cast time of the next 5 healing spells by 30%. Moving on down, we got the Latent Blaze little brother here, which is going to be your Vigilance. We'll talk more about that in a minute. This is just simply so you have a mouse over UI for it. Right now, Renewed Altruism. This is just so I can type what it does, reset, so that I can remember. Moving on down, we got a single target cleanse here. Cleanse macro, pretty standard stuff there. It'll check your entire raid group to see if anybody needs cleanse, and it will cleanse the first person that's available. Moving up to the top here, we have a speed buff. This is targetable. You can cast this on whoever you want. However, I recommend that if you're using this for PvP, use it for yourself to save your own skin. Moving on down, we got battle res. That's pretty standard, just so you can put it as a mouse over. We have a mana macro, just so I can label it. Over to the right even more, we have 2 break frees here. We get break free, and we also get liberty of thought, which is another break free from the Sentinel tree. And then of course we got 2 extra buffs here which go on the tank, and I literally just have them here so I can label them tank so that I know I can't cast them on myself. And of course, last but not least, we have the Cleric macro. So that's it for the macros, guys. Let's go ahead and talk about the buffs and what's on the action bar. So looking at the top left here, you'll see we have a long string of buffs here. Okay, so the one bad part about Sentinel is you do have a lot of buffs active, but the good part about that is that if people are just hitting purge every once in a while, they'll probably only catch the last couple buffs in your tree in your buff bar there, and they may not get to your big buffs. So you can just keep recasting your buffs and making sure that they don't purge the good ones off. So over to the left here, we'll start Heroic's Resolve. This is standard 85 endurance buff. We got Wisdom of the Ages, standard 85 wisdom buff. Sign of Wrath, this is going to be a damage shield, 867 damage shield anytime you cast single target healing or absorb. Healer's Blessing causes single target heals and absorbs to restore an additional 36 to 3900 health. Marked by the Light causes healing spells to restore 1800 to 2000 more health to 2 party raid members near the Cleric. Nice little AoE splash there. Faith Reward, this is a pretty big one. This causes healing and absorb abilities used on party raid members that are below 50% health to restore an additional 7,000 to 8,000 health. So it's almost like an additional Divine Favor. Moving to the right, these are the tank abilities we talked about. This one restores extra health to the ally whenever the Cleric casts an invocation, which is, by the way, going to be a lot. Then over here, Wrathful Exuberance. This one's going to be similar to the Purifier buff that they get that deals 75% of damage, or rather, it deals life damage to the ally's target equal to 75% of the amount healed. And then of course we have Divine Favor here. This is pretty standard stuff. If you don't know how this works, you'll first cast Divine Providence. That'll go on yourself. And then you'll cast Divine Favor on 3 other targets in your party or raid. Once you cast those on the targets, every time you cast a healing spell, it'll proc. Healing for 9,000 and 10,000 health, which of course in PvP is reduced significantly, but it still makes up a giant amount of healing. Quick notes, you can't stack these with other clerics, so make sure that if somebody else is running it, you're coordinating and not casting them on the same people. And also this is purgeable, so you may have to watch your targets and ensure that they don't lose this buff. Moving over to the right, we got Inspirational Battle. This is from the Oracle tree. This one increases attack power, spell power by 275 whenever you cast an insignia, which is right here. And of course we got the Cleric macro right there. Moving down to the secondary bar here, we have the Latent Blaze baby brother Vigilance. This restores 20,000 health if your health drops below 20% or receive a killing blow within 60 seconds. You can, just like Latent Blaze, you can pair this up with Flashover if you choose to and have it crit when it goes off, but in PvP it's more of just a little bit of extra damage, effective health, simply because it doesn't heal for very much and it gets reduced significantly in PvP. And that is on the Z key. On the Q key we have Fullness of Life. This is going to be your full heal. Again, in PvP it gets significantly reduced, but it still ends up being a good chunk of healing. On the E key, Healer's Covenant, this is a very strong cooldown, reduces damage taken by 40% for 10 seconds, and it's targetable. This one is really great for objective games where you need to have the person that's being targeted take a lot less damage. On the R key, we have Denial's Hope, Healer's Haste macro. If you hit this R key twice, it'll pop both of these abilities, increasing healing done by 50% on the next 5 single target heals, as well as reducing the reducing the cast time of the spells, next 5 healing spells, by 30%. These two here, Touch the Light and Flashover. Touch the Light makes the next healing or absorb instant and reduces mana cost by 50%. Flashover forces a crit. These are just here so that I can monitor their cooldowns. Right here, Mana Potions, really, really important stuff, particularly if you have a lot of Dominators running around mana wrenching everybody, and also because Sentinel and, well, Cleric healing builds in general are pretty mana hungry to begin with. So it's always good to carry a surplus of mana pots on you. Over to the right here, we got the Mana Regeneration channelable ability there. We got Insignia of Blood, which is what we use to proc our Inspirational Battle. We have Banish, which is just a simple damage over time ability. Soul Stream is on the bar. That way, if I swap over to it, I can have access to it here. Down to the main bar, we got our 3 main invocation macros here. You can see Subtle Invocation costs about 450 mana and does 14,000 health. I use this typically when people aren't taking a whole lot of damage and I just need to top them up. Number 2, Healing Invocation restores 20 to 22,000 health, but it has a little bit more of a cast time and costs a little bit more mana. This one is the main one that I used a majority of the time. Number 3 is Crucial Invocation, and it heals for 31,000 health with a 1.5 second cast time, so we're back down to the original cast time. However, you'll notice one thing, that Crucial Invocation costs 1800 mana to cast. Now if you use it with Touch the Light, it will cast instantly and only cost 900 mana, but you can only do that one time. After that, if you keep spamming it, you will mana starve very quickly, so just be very careful with this ability. Moving over to 4, we got Divine Call. This is a 1 minute cooldown, area of effect healing, heals for about 7k health, not very strong. If you hit it again, it will cast Healing Communion, which is an area of effect heal that's a little less strong than this. I think it does about 4,500 health or so, so not too terrible, but definitely not something you're going to want to be spamming. Sentinel is primarily a single target healing spec. So moving over to the right, one more, we got Symbol of the Torch. Standard Absorb here does about 18,000 Absorb. Pretty cool to spam around in PvP to increase effective health. We got the standard Battle Res on 6. We have Renewed Altruism on 7, which resets the cooldown of all Sentinel abilities. We have Flash of Radiance, which pacifies all nearby enemies for 8 seconds. This one you typically want to use when you don't have a whole lot of support around you, because if you got a lot of Reavers or people that are AoEing a lot, then if you use this, it'll break the pacify immediately, and these people will be right back to chewing you and burning you down. So just be careful when you use this. Moving over to the 9 key, we got the single target cleanse macro. The 0 key, if you've watched my guides before, is mapped to my middle click button. So right now it will cleanse everyone if I hit my middle click button. This is the AoE cleanse. The minus key is my speed buff. It's a cast at self speed buff, 50% for 10 seconds. Great for getaways. And then of course we have our 2 break free abilities here on the equals key. So that's it for the buffs in the action bar, guy. Let's go ahead and talk about the K-alerts really quick. So I am running out of K-alert space, so I do use these on a subset. Subset 2, a couple things that I track. I do track the Healer's Covenant duration to see when it's going to fall off. I also track the Nihil's Hope and Healer's Haste abilities here. And then of course we do track our little baby Latent Blaze here, Vigilance, which restores 20k health if health drops below 20% or you receive a killing blow within 60 seconds. So I don't track a whole lot of stuff there. But that's it, guys. That's all all the K alerts. Right now I guess we'll go ahead and talk about how to play this build in PvP. Playing Sentinel is actually not that difficult. The first thing you're going to want to do once you get close to where you're going to be starting combat is you're going to want to make sure you cast Vigilance on yourself. That's going to be a nice little insurance policy, similar to Latent Blaze, that'll help heal you a little bit if you start taking a lot of damage. The next thing after that is you're going to want to try and hang out near your teammates and make sure that you're casting your invocations. You'll start with Subtle Invocation if they're not taking much damage, but I suspect very quickly you'll start moving over to your Healing Invocation and Crucial Invocations abilities, because people are going to be starting to focus your teammates down. So a couple things you can do here. There's a lot of different combos similar to Purifier that you can perform to increase or to achieve greater effects rather. So where you can see Crucial Invocation here does about 31k. If it crits, it's going to do pretty close to 60k. So the way that we're going to make it crit, of course, is if you hit 3, it's going to cast Crucial Invocation. If you hold Shift and then hit 3 a couple times, it's going to cast Touch the Light, making it instant and also cost 50% less mana. And then also make it crit with Flashover here. So one of the abilities that you can use if you're in a pinch and somebody's taking a crap load of damage is you can hit Shift and you can hit 3 a bunch of times until your Crucial Invocation goes off. You can see it just heal for about 58k there. If you want to make that even bigger, you can fire off your Nihil's Hope Healer's Haste macro and it'll do it 50% more. That will push it approximately to about 85k. So if you reduce that by about, I believe PvP healing is 85% reduced currently, or somewhere or thereabouts. So it'll still heal for about 15 to 20k or so. So still a really large healing increase there. So moving on down, the next thing you can do is if your person's taking a lot of damage, like say for instance you have an objective carrier like the Fang of Regulos, you can pop the Healer's Covenant as soon as he starts taking on damage to reduce a lot of that damage that's incoming. And at that point, if he's already really low, you can hit your Fullness of Life followed by casting your Crucial Invocation to keep him up. Or you can just spam your Healing Invocation if he's not taking a lot of damage. And then alternatively, you can come over here and hit your R key twice and then use a Crucial Invocation too. So now you're casting Crucial Invocation, you're healing for 45k without the PvP reduction on it. And you also have your 40% Healer's Covenant running on the guy. And you also still have Renewed Altruism to reset all your abilities if stuff is still going rough for you. So you can see that Sentinel is really, I guess, adaptable. You can do a lot with it, and it has some extreme burst healing capabilities right up front. So that's definitely something to note. Also make sure that you know where your mana potion button is, because if you're using Crucial Invocation a lot, you're going to have to use mana potions for sure. So definitely keep that in mind. Other than that, that's pretty much the bulk of Sentinel, guys. You have your Vigilance key here. You want to make sure that you put that up whenever it's available. You can put it on your target as well. It doesn't have to be you. Again, if you have a Fang of Regulos carrier, you can put that on him. Fullness of Life restores health equal to 100% of your health. However, again in PvP it's going to be reduced, but that's going to be a very, very strong healing. Thing to note here is this is not affected by your Nihil's Hope or Healer's Haste, so don't pair that with that. This 40% Healer's Covenant is a really strong cooldown, so definitely use these liberally. Anything that's on a minute cooldown, use it as liberally as you want because it'll be back very quickly. And if you get in trouble and all your stuff's down, of course, you can hit Renewed Altruism, which you can activate by hitting 7 or by hitting Shift and Q, because if you remember, we have a Shift modifier from Renewed Altruism in our Fullness of Life macro. So say for instance you need some really excellent burst right up front right away, you can hit your Q key followed by your Shift Q followed by Q again, and you can cast Fullness of Life back to back just like that. And not to mention, once you do that, ideally all your other stuff would be on cooldown already. You can go straight into your Healer's Covenant, Nihil's Hopes, and you can immediately start spamming your Crucial Invocations. But that's it, guys. That's the bulk of Sentinel play. Once you play it more, you'll get the hang of it. It's really, really simple to play. You literally play with these 4 buttons here and these 3 buttons here for the majority of it. You do have a couple other abilities, such as your Divine Call for AoE healing. Right now it's showing a bigger tooltip because we have the Nihil's Hope stuff up. But after that, it'll go down to about 7,000 or so health. And you also do have a shield that you can use to keep people. But typically, if you're in a big war front, you're going to have somebody else running Purifier probably, and they'll probably be throwing shields up on everybody. So you may not be able to cast this very much, but if you can, make sure you do cast it because it does provide a decent extra little chunk of hit points there. Also keep in mind you have your Flash of Radiance here. Use this if you get into some sticky situations where it's like you and one other and a couple other people and you need to get out quick. You can pop this and get out. However, if you got a lot of Reavers out there or a lot of people spreading dots or doing a lot of AoE damage, it's going to break the pacifier really quick. So as soon as you cast it, you need to get out of there as soon as you can. One last note really quick, your Inspirational Battle, if you have time to cast this in between heals, you want to pop an Insignia of Blood for some damage, and that way you can proc your 275 attack power and spell power buff. However, that is secondary to healing, so if you don't get a chance to do it, it's not a big deal. There's usually somebody running some kind of Bard or Oracle DPS spec in Warfronts typical nowadays anyway, so it may not even stick, but this is definitely something to keep in mind that you have the capability of doing. But other than that, guys, that's it. If you guys have any questions about the Sentinel PvP spec, please leave them in the comments section below. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to like and subscribe. Also, don't forget to check out my new Facebook page, facebook.com/chamberdown, and I will see you guys next time.